Let's talk about the timing of Israel striking Iran. Why now? There are lots of factors people are pointing to. We'll run through three of the main ones, but first, here's the backdrop. Since October 2023, when Hamas attacked Israel and Israel launched its war on Gaza, we've been in a period of heightened tension in the Middle East. Set against that, you've got a decades-long rivalry between Israel and Iran that goes back to the Islamic Revolution in 1979. And over the years, Israel has been adamant that it won't allow Iran to develop a nuclear weapon. It sees that as an existential threat. Iran says its nuclear program is peaceful and only for civilian use. For Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, taking out Iran's nuclear capability is something he's been talking about for his whole career.
Could you just explain for us how big a deal this is for Netanyahu personally?
Oh, this is huge. I mean, he's been calling for bombing Iran since the 1990s, but some of your viewers may remember him holding up a cartoon of a bomb at the UN General Assembly some years ago, where he said if Iran developed this much uranium, it would be too late, the point of no return. No, this is a legacy issue for him.
That also squares with what analysts are saying about all the planning that's gone into this on the Israeli side.
They smuggled in drones. They were activating their operatives in Iran. They had intelligence on where Iran's military leaders live, and were able to kill them in their beds. Israelis have been wargaming this forever, but certainly after October 7th, 2023, those plans took on a different hue, shall we say, and became really operational.
This operation is really planned over many, many, many years, over 10 years. The preparations cost billions of dollars. It was always in the air. It was many times almost implemented, and always there was someone to stop it.
So how come this time it actually happened? Let's get into those three factors, starting with the nuclear aspect, which has been Israel's main justification. This is what Netanyahu said just after Israel launched its first strike on Iran.
If not stopped, Iran could produce a nuclear weapon in a very short time. It could be a year, it could be within a few months, less than a year. This is a clear and present danger to Israel's very survival. That is why we have no choice but to act, and act now.
But here's the thing. The Trump administration was negotiating with Iran about its nuclear program, and the next round of talks was supposed to happen 2 days after Israel launched the first strikes. So plenty of people are questioning why Israel didn't let that diplomacy run its course. On top of that, back in March, the U.S. made this assessment of Iran's nuclear capabilities.
The IC continues to assess that Iran is not building a nuclear weapon, and Supreme Leader Khamenei has not authorized the nuclear weapons program that he suspended in 2003.
But there have been other developments since then. On June 12th, so the day before Israel launched its attack on Iran, the world's nuclear watchdog, the International Atomic Energy Agency, said that Iran was not complying with its commitment to international nuclear safeguards. And in a report at the end of May, it said that Iran had significantly increased production and accumulation of highly enriched uranium, describing that as a serious concern. Although in a separate report, it also said that it had no credible indications of an ongoing, undeclared, structured nuclear program.
We did not find in Iran elements to indicate that there is an active, systematic plan to build a nuclear weapon. We have not seen elements to allow us as inspectors to affirm that there was a nuclear weapon that was being manufactured or produced somewhere in Iran.
There's one more thing to keep in mind. Listen to Al Jazeera's James Bays, who we spoke to recently for our explainer on those US-Iran nuclear talks.
I think one thing we have to say, though, every time we mention Israel, is Israel has a nuclear weapon. Israel has not signed up to any of the international conventions. Israel doesn't let IAEA look at its nuclear program and its nuclear weapons. It doesn't admit it has a nuclear weapon, but everyone knows that it does.
Okay, another factor when it comes to the timing of Israel's attacks is that a key part of Iran's defense strategy against Israel has been its network of regional allies known as the Axis of Resistance. But it's been seriously weakened in the last year or so, especially Hezbollah in Lebanon, which is next door to Israel. Hezbollah is a political and armed group that's always had support from Iran.
Israel's been going after Hezbollah really hard ever since October 2023, even killing its leader. So did the fact that Hezbollah is much weaker now factor into the timing of all this as well?
Yeah, absolutely. Hezbollah was supposed to be Iran's forward defense, and Israel destroyed that forward defense, basically, and really made Hezbollah incapable of retaliating on Iran's behalf.
Hezbollah was one of the threats which stopped Israel of attacking Iran, because in Israel, the military power of Hezbollah, it was always perceived as a very strong one and very threatening one in terms of making life impossible here, and they were neutralized.
Okay, now our third factor is President Trump. As we mentioned, Israel has essentially been planning this for years, but Israel relies heavily on the US for military and political support. No previous US president ever gave the green light for Israel to take military action in Iran to crush its nuclear capability. One way or another, it happened under Trump. But we don't know exactly how that played out. He's been sending mixed messages. Just one day before Israel's attack, he suggested that he wanted to stick with the nuclear talks.
Look, I want to have an agreement with Iran. As long as I think there is an agreement, I don't want them going in, because I think that would blow it. Might help it, actually, but it also could blow it.
But since then, he seems to have become more and more aligned with Israel's messaging. He implied that Israel's operation was all part of an ultimatum that he gave to Iran when they started talks on a nuclear deal earlier this year.
I gave Iran 60 days, and they said no, and the 61st you saw what happened.
5 days into the attacks, he posted this threat about Iran's supreme leader, saying he's an easy target and we're not going to take him out, i.e. kill him, at least for now. Trump also demanded an unconditional surrender by Iran, which Iran's supreme leader has rejected.
ملت ایران در مقابل جنگ تحمیلی محکم می‌ایسته، همچنانی که تا حالا ایستاده. در مقابل صلح تحمیلی محکم می‌ایسته. ملت ایران در مقابل تحمیل تسلیمی هیچ کس نمیشه.
When you see that Trump was very much pushing for these US-Iran nuclear talks to go ahead, and at the same time appearing to quietly endorse or allow this operation against Iran to happen. Can you help make sense of that for us?
The answer is no. I surrender vis-a-vis Trump. I really can't analyze him, can't predict him, obviously, because he cannot predict himself. But he has the keys, as usual. He has the keys. Where are we aiming now? He can make this war finish, and he can make this war even a bigger hell.
And is that what Israel is gunning for, is US involvement at this point?
No doubt. They're doing anything possible to pull him in, including increasing the hits in Iran, so that Iran will hit back more seriously, so the threat, or the so-called threat over Israel, will seem to be more serious, and then there will be more public pressure in the United States to protect Israel.
What happens next depends a lot on what Trump decides to do. Most experts agree that the only way to wipe out Iran's nuclear program militarily is with direct US involvement, because it's the only country with a massive bunker buster bomb that can hit deep underground. That's where Iran has built some of its nuclear infrastructure. There's one enrichment site in particular in a place called Fordow in northwest Iran, which is basically buried under a mountain.
But for now, Trump seems to want to keep people guessing as to whether or not the US will strike Iran's nuclear facilities.
I mean, you don't know that I'm going to even do it. You don't know. I may do it. I may not do it. I mean, nobody knows what I'm going to do. I can tell you this, that Iran's got a lot of trouble, and they want to negotiate.
It also seems that Israel's goals might go beyond taking out Iran's nuclear sites, because Israel hit a whole range of targets, from assassinating top military officials to bombing the state TV channel. Some people are suggesting there's a bigger motivation here, to bring down Iran's government. Israel's defense minister has said that eliminating Iran's supreme leader is part of the campaign.
They are using Iran's nuclear program as a pretext to wage a war, and their aim is regime change and topple the ruling system, hoping that their actions will lead to some Iranians protesting in the streets, and that the ruling system is going to collapse from within. That is a big, huge miscalculation.
Is regime change part of the calculation in terms of timing?
No doubt. The only way really to neutralize the Iranian nuclear capabilities is through changing the regime. Changing regimes by force never succeeded nowhere. From Afghanistan to Vietnam, from Lebanon to Gaza and the West Bank, Americans and Israel tried so many times to change regimes in so many countries. It was always a catastrophe.
And it's already a disaster for so many people caught up in this war. Hundreds of civilians have been killed, mainly in Iran, but also some in Israel from Iran's retaliatory strikes. People's lives are on hold, and there's a lot of fear about how much worse this could still get.